Alright, hello guys. Today is, what was it? Yeah, 9th of August 2022, and my name is Yuri. Just to remind you all, if you haven't read it on the title of the channel, I wanted to talk today about something a bit different, but along the same lines what I'm going to talk about now. And today okay, this video has come into my lap, and this is done by an American YouTube channel called Breaking Points. Now, why am I putting it here and people to see these videos from YouTube is because I wanted to talk about how the Russians are waging the informational warfare, not just against Ukraine, but against a lot of people in the West. Right, how it's done, and how a new media, so-called new media, is, to be honest, being used because people think they can trust these guys. Okay, the Breaking Points, they've been around a while. The reason I got this video in my list today was because I've seen some of their videos and some of it was okay for the level of knowledge that I had. And they did call out the normal media from time to time on the bullshit the normal media did. The normal media does a lot of bullshit and no due diligence. And these guys, they claim they're journalists and they're into like giving people the information, but in reality, what these two people do is, don't remember Saga and the other girl's name. I don't remember their names anyway. But they actually go over the news articles, so they don't do any own journalism, right? They don't understand the burden of proof. They don't understand due diligence. They just talk shit on YouTube, right? But they're doing this very much like some other channels, like this one, and some bigger ones, some smaller ones, but many of them get support by Russians. And Russians have been known to support heavily different groups, international groups. So just a few days ago, there was a case of Amnesty International, which has big Russian money flowing in there. And the Amnesty International has claimed that Ukrainian soldiers are horrible because they're not leaving the cities for Russian soldiers to capture. So the Amnesty International went like, okay, Ukrainian soldiers are very bad because you're fighting Russian soldiers in the cities. You're not letting them just have it. You're defending the cities. So it might lead to some people dying. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of part of defending your own land is. It entitles that, right? Obviously, Amnesty International doesn't say anything about the Russians actually putting heavy artillery in between the buildings and using buildings without letting people to evacuate, using them as a shield for their artillery. Nothing. Now, we're gonna look it up now as well. Right. Donetsk mines. Oh. Uh, Yo, I spelled it wrong, but here's an article about people who dropped the anti-personnel mines around Donetsk from helicopters. Now, the fact that the Donetsk is heavily defended by anti-aircraft stuff, right? It's just like even people from Donetsk are already writing and saying that, hey guys, we know it was not Ukrainians. Now pick the shit up and get it out of people's way. You're killing people for nothing, right? But Amnesty International says nothing about this, right? Why? Because it's heavily dependent on Russian money giving them, they're not saying anything about prison torture in Russia, not very much anyway, right? But they will tell Ukrainian soldiers not to defend the cities and the villages, to just walk out of them and let Russians roll in. That doesn't make much sense. This is an international warfare, right? But these are the big organizations, and many people kind of know about this stuff. They know that these organizations are for sale to the highest bidder. So if I came to the Amnesty International, said, guys, look, here's 100 mil, which is not a big sum of money for Russian governments, do you mind running this story for me and accusing Russians of throwing those anti-personnel mines on the city of Donetsk? They'll probably say yes. Okay, we know this. These are big organizations. There's a lot of people who do a very good job on the ground, but they also have the people on the top, they're very corrupt. They don't say anything as long as they're paid for it. We all know that. This is why so many of us respect Amnesty International people who will go into Iran, who will go to other places where some girl has been arrested just because she wasn't wearing the right color of headscarf or something like this. We're all gonna have high respect for people from Amnesty International who go to the worst jails in the world and trying to make at least some attempt to make sure that people there have a decent existence. Right? Of course, very often they're not being sent to Russian jails, they're not being financed to go to Russian jails because Russia is the one who's financing a lot of top people in the Amnesty International. They're just a bunch of corrupt twats, but we all know they are. Right? So many of us are kind of going like, okay, we get it. Right? This is why many of us don't trust the big news agencies, because we know that they're corrupt. Like, for example, when the Fox News runs a story on like how most of Ukrainians are Nazis. I mean, we know that Fox News is corrupt. And we know that the guy who reads the news from the Fox News, he's just a talking head, a little like twat with fake hair and fake tan who pretends that he knows better. He doesn't. Okay? He's a very bad, uneducated actor who don't know shit about life. He reads the stuff to make you happy and come back and watch the program again. That's all he is. Right? But of course, on top of big institutions that we know are lying, we also get like channels like this one. Again, they're like, they some a lot of times they will do a valid point, but then they just do it, and then somebody comes in and brings in a pile of money and says, look guys, this is for your new channel, right? These guys are claiming they want to be the new media. This is for you to be a new media, right? And then these guys run bullshit like they run on this story. The story is going like this. CBS caught editing report on arms proliferation from Ukraine. Right? They have a bunch of other stories like this one. And to point out as well, I went through their history, right? Just when this video came up. And with all their talking about Ukraine, guess who they never had on their channel? They had Russians. They had more Russians. They had people who are funded by Russia. Right? Ukraine is being invaded. Maybe I didn't look deep enough. But I have not seen them running a story with a single Ukrainian. Not a single fucking one. I wonder why. I mean, they live in wherever they live in US, but US is full of Ukrainians. I mean, all they have to go is join some place where there's Ukrainian protesters. Probably they live in the big city. They can find people with Ukrainian flags. They can say, hey, you're Ukrainian. You might come into our channel and talk us about Ukraine. Not a single fucking one. But they had Russians there talking about, oh, how upsetting it is for Russians that they can't say, they can't, like, you know, that their money has been taken out in US, or like how upsetting it is for Russians that, well, wait a minute, we're supporting the invasion of Ukraine, but it's upsetting for us that people are upset with us for supporting the war in Ukraine. It's like, no fucking shit. You support a war, you support an invasion, and you expect people to like you for that? I mean, we were upset with US when they did some dodgy shit. And at least those guys had at least half thought through excuses of doing this. I mean, we understood most of those are bullshit, and we called them on this. But when you have a country which level Grozny to the ground, right? Which leveled cities in Syria, Aleppo, one of them. It's the use of chemical weapons, which bombed the living shit out of cities in Georgia for no good reason, under false pretenses, which leveled cities in Ukraine twice already, second fucking time running, both times without actually declaring a war. Not in 2014, not now. They're running a special operation. It's not a war. And you supporting this, and you think people should not hold you fucking responsible. And when a channel like this, they're breaking fucking points, when their breaking fucking point is that, oh yeah, a bully who got punched in the fucking nose after bullying people is upset for being punched in the nose. That's not a breaking point. That's what should fucking happen. If you bully people, if you've been an obnoxious cunt, and people get upset and start fighting back and don't like you anymore, you kind of deserve it because you're a bully. If you're supporting a bully and a war criminal, and you say, hey, I'm supporting, like, well, brother, then fuck off back to Russia. Why are you staying in US? I mean, in Lithuania, people actually arrested the guy. True story. There was a YouTube channel there run by a guy who was saying, oh, the Russia should come after Ukraine. They should come in here and bomb Lithuania as well, make them more peaceful, get them out of NATO. He was calling for bombing cities, for sending missiles into cities. They fucking arrested the guy. He was taking the money from the Russians, started as well as an okay channel. And then people went, hey, you're taking money from the Russians and you're calling for essentially genocide? You get arrested. Right. Supporting terrorism is a fucking crime. So now we have these guys. So the video they have in here, and as well, I've done a video, the one I was talking yesterday, I was saying that Ukrainians are not very good at defending against this. That we should be calling these people, these motherfuckers up. I'm swearing, it's not for kids, okay? The video is going to be aimed at it's not for kids. And this video is not made for monetization. It won't be monetized. So I can swear. Thank you very much. Right, so Ukrainians are not very good at calling these cunts out. There was a channel in Ukraine, and if there's any Ukrainians who remember the name of the channel, it's website in Ukraine who did the calling out for the Russians. So they were anti-fake or something like this. Actually, let's look it up, right? Sorry, I can't find it, but there was something like anti-fake. I'll search it up. Right, this one just to say it came over. Let's go to this breaking point, guys. Right, and Ukrainians are not very good at doing this at an international level, right? So I'm calling these guys out, but there's other channels, like I said, there's Fox News. But let's go into the story, right? So these guys pick up a story which has been aired in April, right, by CBS. And to be honest, CBS fucked up, from what I understand. They ran a story, they ran a video by another blogger, right, who essentially claimed that all the weapons that out of the weapons that Ukraine was supplied in April, right, they not much weapons, they didn't hit the front lines, that weapons disappeared magically. Obviously, when a big channel like this, and the point is part of that program was not just a stab at Ukrainians, but obviously a stab at U.S. military, who kept track. Number one, let's be honest, right? All Ukrainians know that as much as we Ukrainians are grateful for the international support to Ukraine, but in April, Ukraine was not getting many weapons. Not at fucking all. Okay, there was no major weapon influx into Ukraine. Right, one flight a day with a few tons of ammunition and a few anti-tank missiles. Right, that wasn't much. Some of these weapons would be used to train new personnel so that can actually use the weapons. And a lot of these weapons would be sent to the most dangerous areas, so like the most important like parts of the fighting. So obviously these weapons would not hit every unit in Ukraine, right? So the blogger, he went in Ukraine and he did the blog. He took some videos from some people who said, look, we haven't seen the Ukraine. He also contacted some groups which were like essentially militia fighters. There were some of them in Ukraine. I think they slowly incorporated into the army again, very much like the Azov unit, who started as a militia fighters fighting to defend their land, but after the initial kind of mass have turned into and not like all out, like, you know, we're defending, like the Ukrainians government have said, guys, look, we're happy that you're happy to fight, but you need to be part of this armed forces. You cannot just go off and do whatever the fuck you want. And they were like, okay, and they joined the army, so they've been vetted, so they became a full-on unit in Ukrainian army, where they are responsible to all the military rules and laws. You know, they're not just guys running around with machine guns anymore. So during this war, obviously some militia units turned up in the places where the military could not reach, or there was just that situation where there's like something happened and they just got together. And all of those units obviously talk with Ukrainian military and over time become part of the military. But obviously this blogger has gone and talked to them and they were like, well, we don't get these weapons. Or some units here don't get these weapons. And he just concluded that, yeah, only 30% of weapons hit actual Ukrainian soldiers. Which was not true. And he got called on that. Right, he got called on that, and even he said, like, you know, okay, cool, I was wrong. And the situation is very different now. But these guys take the program from April, right? So obviously when CBS ran this program, these guys are claiming Ukrainian government has managed to get the CBS to pull the false report. Ukrainian government?
Dealing with CBS? Ukrainian government can't deal with Fox News that actively was calling them Nazis. They couldn't get that shit off air. Does anybody really think these guys gonna be like dealing with report on CBS? Hell, most of us don't even fucking know what CBS is. Let's be honest. Right, but this is the way Russians do it, is they pay these guys, right, and they say, hey, here's the story. We're giving you money, we're your big subscriber, like the guy who brings in the dough, like a couple of grand a month, maybe 10 grand, I don't know how much. Right, and here's the story. Why don't you run it? And because these guys are not journalists, they're just talking fucking heads. Right, they don't feel any responsibility to their listeners. They just want something that will make them money. Right? And they will run these kind of false stories where like it's half true, but for example, if they were true about being journalists and about being the new media, probably getting a quote from CBS, military, like US military, if they're claiming that US military was complacent in killing the story with Ukrainian government, maybe contacting Ukrainian embassy, like doing the legwork. But they don't wanna, because they're not journalists, they're just sell-offs that read news articles. And this is how Russians also influence heavily on public opinion, because there's a bunch of channels like this. We know about Russian trolls, but they're not just there to write things on Facebook or LinkedIn or any other network or YouTube. They're also there to put stories like this. Right? Putting the stories to channels like this, these like for what? 10 grand a month? How many channels can they afford at 10 grand a month? 100 channels? That's a pretty good fucking buy. I mean, these guys are actually quite smart in the way they word things. So whatever Russians pay them, I think it's a good buy. They really bought a very fancy, good, well-spoken characters for them. But I think there was some things like some comedian Jimmy Dork or something like this as well was peddling this BS with his friends to prove the main media wrong. Of course, you want to prove main media wrong. No, you don't. You're just working off the Russian money. Let's look this comedian up, shall we? Oh, I already looked for him, didn't I? Yeah, Jimmy Dore. Let's pick a. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I can see. Oh, 1.06 million subscribers. People who want to be entertained and who don't trust the main media. He's an anti-media guy. I don't know. Not sure. But I've heard him talk about Ukraine. He's already complaining that media covers Ukraine more way than they covered what?
So guess what? I'm here with Jackson Eagle and Kurt Metz.
Way more than they covered Iraq. Right? Horrible media. I mean, look. That's what you get for Russian money. I complain that the media covers the fact that a country which has a permanent seat on the Security Council of UN, which is one of the major nuclear powers, right, invades a neighboring country for no reason at all, just because the president decides so. Right? And this thing is given more coverage than Iraq capturing some oil fields from another country. They've got pretty much good coverage for Iraq, for both wars. Times were different, there was less media as well. We didn't hear it as much, we didn't have as much internet. Well, we had almost no internet, but that's a difference. Right, he's not complaining about a lunatic with nuclear weapons and the army of people who are happy to commit war crimes and genocide. But he's unhappy that we talk about it. God damn it, how can you talk about the biggest war in Europe? One war that can at the moment lead to World War fucking 3. I don't think it will be a World War 3. I think it will be a war against one lunatic. The Russia is going to be divided. It's going to be divided anyway, but fuck it. That's what Russian money buys you, guys. How much did they pay him for that? I don't know, 10, 20 grand? Fuck knows. He even got paid from YouTube for that. And this is how Russians fighting the informational war. It's not just the trolls. It's the media channels like this one, like Jimmy Dore, like Breaking Point, maybe some others. Like, I don't keep much track. Just some stuff that happened to fall in my lap. And they are essentially buying these people off to peddle their bullshit. Right? To try and get you like, oh, look, it doesn't matter that we killed, 20,000 people by bombing and living shit out of a city when nobody even knew we were coming. Oh, wait, you're upset that, that we bombed the city instead of fighting for it properly? You're upset that unlike the Americans in Iraq, who went into the cities and did street-to-street fighting, or Afghanistan, we just go in there and level the cities to the ground? You're upset about this? Well, the Jimmy Dore and the Breaking Point is gonna fucking tell you that you should not be. You should be upset together with the Amnesty International. They will tell you that you should be upset with the Ukrainians not wanting to fucking die. Amnesty International is not gonna tell you about people who've been picked off from the street in my home city of Kherson and disappearing forever. Okay? Hundreds of cases. They won't speak about this. These motherfuckers will not speak about this. They would rather tell you that, well, Ukrainians should not be defending themselves. That's your information warfare. And then you have clowns that will be like repeating that all over the place. And we're not just talking about Russian trolls. Because people trust these guys and say, oh, right, that's probably right. You know, the main media has been lying to us and shit. So I understand if Americans want to defend America. We probably want people to help us if shit went sideways. But if you're not from America and you want to defend your country, you're a fucking Nazi. I think Ukrainians really need to call that shit out more. Like I said, there's Ukrainians living in US. There's channels like this in Germany. There's channels like this in France. There's channels like this in UK. I mean, there's politicians like this in UK who says, oh, why do we give Ukrainians weapons to defend themselves? We should really let Russians take them. Really? Who's next? I mean, I thought Britain has already stepped on this fucking spade or whatever it's called. I thought they already made that mistake. I thought they've learned from it. What was it? Czech Republic, Poland? Second World War, anyone? Rings any bells, any fucking history? How much did they take from Russians to say that shit? And some of them actually believe that. And they go and they listen to this alternative media who has not done a single fucking step to actually get the news. They're not doing the news. They're not doing the research. They're not doing the legwork. They don't do due diligence. They just take money and say whatever they've been paid to say. I mean, I don't think many people go to watch his shows. Not enough to pay for his existence. Otherwise, he'd be having Netflix fucking specials. But it doesn't. He runs a YouTube channel, quite popular, I should say. But he ain't no Joe fucking Rogan. And Russians will be investing into channels like this to tell you what you should believe. And you will believe because, oh wait, he said some good things. You can't be wrong about that. But the mainstream media says some good things. We call them when they say bullshit. We call that bullshit when it's bullshit. And Russians will invest money into this guy, to the other guys, and to the other channels. I mean, I think, what was it? The part where the Russian athletes were forbidden for taking part in the Olympics? When an international doping body, the people that spend so much time on dope that no blood is found in the dope that runs through their veins, have said that Russian athletes have been doped up too much. I mean, the body which Russians try to put tons of money in them. And even those motherfuckers who spend most of their time just testing drugs on themselves have said, hey guys, you've got too much drugs in your system. Even I can say that. Let me just have some cocaine and cover it with marijuana. And shot of heroin in the process. And I can still tell you that there's too much dope in your dope. Right? They've been known to having few scandals where the Russians were paying people off. But here it's on a smaller scale, but on the wider range. He's not a journalist. Nobody questions him. But you will get, oh, he's saying a good thing. Wait a minute. What does he know about Ukraine? Oh, he's complaining people talk about Ukraine too much? Well, maybe standing on the precipice of a third world fucking war might be warranted. One of those. So yeah, they have Saga and Crystal. Saga and Crystal. Fucking liars. Bought up by Russians. So much like many others. Paid off to be a talking heads for the regime, which is so appalling. Even Chinese told them to fuck off. Just think about this for a fucking change. Thank you very much. Good night.